Okay, so last part of our pseudocode, or maybe another part, but we've looked at sequence and selection. The last part, iteration, we've just looked at count controlled. So iteration is repeating things. We've just looked at count controlled using the for next loop. There's two more types of loop we're going to look at. We're going to look at post condition, repeat until, and precondition, while do. Okay, so the first one, post condition, what this means is that the loop will run, then it'll check something to decide if it needs to run again. So this type of loop will always run once. So we start off with repeat, then we put our statement. So we'll go with output, enter password, and we'll input password. Okay, and so these are the statements within the loop, and here's our what we call exit condition here. Unless we meet the exit condition, we'll be stuck in that loop until password. Now I'm putting in equals. If you're thinking why hasn't he put an arrow here, remember the arrow is assignment. If we put an arrow here, we're going to give password the value of whatever this is. We actually want to compare it. So in our pseudocode we're using a single equals to tell whoever's looking at this that this is a comparison. So until password equals lemon, not a very strong password, but it'll do for this. So this program will keep this going until password equals that. Okay, so that's what we call a post condition loop. So this will always run once until this is met. Okay, so the next type of loop, or the last type, is precondition. So there's no prizes for guessing, but this will check the condition before the loop runs. Okay, so the condition is checked before the loop runs, and the advantage of this is it might not need to run. You might not need the loop to run. Okay, so for this one, for example, if we check the password before, we wouldn't actually need to actually run through and process these statements here. Okay, but this is still a good example of how you would use the repeat until. Okay, right, so let's have a look at while do. So what we'll do first of all is we'll ask somebody to enter a positive number. Okay, so we'll output, enter a positive number, and then we will input number. Okay, so they'll type in a number, we'll store it as a variable. Let's check that number. Okay, so we're going to use our precondition here. While number is less than 0, do. While do. Okay, now we need some statements. So they've obviously entered a negative number here, so let's tell them that's what they've done. You typed a negative number. Let's give them some instructions of what they need to do next. So output, enter the number again, and then we'll input the number again. So this loop will constantly check as it's going around this variable. So if we didn't put this here, this loop would just go around forever and ever and ever. Okay, so those are all our statements, and then we will put end while. So let's have another look at this. So it's a precondition loop, so we're going to check the condition before the loop actually runs. While do, enter a positive number. So let's say we type in -6. That's stored as number. We then do our check So this is our precondition. The number is -6, so we are going to process this loop and get them to type it in again, and it'll keep going around until they type in a positive number. Then the loop stops. Let's look at it again. Input number, we input number 7. It'll do the precondition, check it's 7, and say, oh, great, carry on with the rest of the program. Okay, so we've got our 3 types of loops, 3 types of iteration. Okay, count controlled, we know how many times it's going to run, we use for next. So for count equals 1 to 1,000, and then next count. Post condition, when we want the loop to run at least once, repeat until. Okay, repeat until. Repeat statements, condition. Okay, and then finally, precondition. The advantage of this one is checks the condition before the loop actually runs. So we may not even need to run at all. Advantage being, we're saving processing time. Okay, usually you can actually use any of these loops to solve the majority of problems. So unless the question's specifically saying to you to use a particular type of loop, or asking you about one of the particular types of loop, and it's asking you to do something that repeats several times, and you know which one you want to use, then just use that one. Okay? Right, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense to you. Thank you very much.